I saw a quote yesterday that said, "If life must not be taken too seriously, then so neither must death." I guess this guy named Sam Butler said that. Now, I gotta admit to you, I don't know much about Sam Butler, but it sounds like the kind of wit and wisdom that you'd find stitched on the front of a pillow in some old country store along the highway. It's the kind of statement that ignores delicacy and revels in flippancy. It's bound to rub some people the wrong way because at its heart there is some counterintuitive truth. I know this because I used to take it all very seriously, life and death. But I want to tell you how I was set free from all that. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mean to say that life and death aren't important. They are defining moments, but they are also just that, moments. I've got this friend, he says, life is a vapor. We're here 1 minute and gone the next. You see, it's all just perspective. If we can stop focusing on the here and now, then we might be able to recognize the forest from the trees. And that's where you find peace, a peace that passes all understanding. Maybe in times like these, that's what you're looking for. So how did I come to this conclusion? I'm so tempted to say right now that nothing about who I am or who I've been really matters. That to recount all that is nothing more than vanity, which shifts perspective to me rather than to the universal truth of what I'm here to say. However, some people have told me that my story isn't for me. So maybe if I tell you just enough, then you might see yourself in me. And that's what's really important. I grew up in a good home where my parents made sure I never really wanted for much. Still, like all kids, I caused a little trouble, and I still do. I guess you could say I've always been a searcher and always wanted to push the boundaries. But I've been lucky. For as many times as it's gotten me in trouble, there has always been someone who came alongside me and recognized that I came from a place of curiosity rather than malice. It took me a while to realize that although that person wore different faces, they were all the face of Christ. The home I grew up in was Christian, so I was exposed to Christianity my whole life. But aside from developing a near crippling fear of hell and death at a young age, I didn't really have much value in it. I didn't hold prominence in my life. In middle school, I got into a scrape and I recognized that Christ offered a way out. But after I took his gift, I put it on a shelf like you might a well-intentioned birthday present that wasn't really your style. In high school, I found kindred spirit with the poets and philosophers of the past, their thirst for knowledge and the search for answers to all the questions of the universe. This was a love that followed me to college, where I seemingly sampled every religion and then tried abandoning the whole concept altogether. None of these satisfied me, and those old fears of death kept creeping in, but I learned to swallow them down and to keep pushing towards the suburban dream so many of us are sold. I got married, my last college girlfriend became my wife, and we both believed our life would be amazing. However, as the honeymoon period ended, the financial crisis hit, and the chinks in the plan began to appear. It was all very serious, and ultimately, even though we each gave the relationship what we were willing to give, neither of us had a rock to stand on. And castles made of sand, well, eventually they get washed out to sea. After my divorce, I felt broken in love, but invincible to everything else, as though life had dealt me its worst hand and there was nothing else that could hurt me. I went through a whole fitness daredevil phase because there was something about it that reminded me I was tough and alive. I left my job and my home in Lee Summit, where my wife and I had lived, to move back towards Kansas City. I was ready to start over, but the problem was that all the changes I was trying to make in my life, I was trying to do them in my own power. I still wake up every morning feeling empty, wishing I could be somewhere else. I was searching to fill a void. I was wanting to go home, but I didn't know where home was. My mom had suggested I find a church, and it was around this time at my new job that I met a friend, Becca Stever, who invited me and my other friend, Nick, to come visit hers. It wasn't really like any other church service I'd been to, and even though Nick didn't come back, I did. I thought the music was good, and People were friendly. But, I made another friend there, Jorge. And it was in talking to him that I really realized the need to make the decisions I'd made back in middle school reality in my life. To actually let Jesus have lordship, control of my path. Here's the thing about humans. We aren't perfect. We're prone to sin. And if you really examine yourself, it may be uncomfortable, but I'm sure you'd agree. What that means is our basic human nature separates us from a God that is the source of everything good. What I ultimately discovered is that no philosophy or good work or religion is going to fill the void left by being disconnected from that source. Because they can't bridge a gap that was left by our sin. Without a bridge to God, life and death really are serious. But God doesn't want that. He desires that everyone have a relationship with him. So he sent his son, Jesus, to be our mediator, to carry the weight of our sins and to bridge that gap. You've probably seen this on the back of bumper stickers and things like that, but John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. For God sent his Son into the world not to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. He wants to have a relationship with you. He wants to save you from all the fear and all of the hardness that you see in the world. Maybe that all sounds to you far out. You think I'm crazy. You think I'm peddling fairy stories. Frankly, I don't care because I've seen for myself. And I know other people who have as well. I know self-examination and mindfulness can be hard. But believe me, you can be set free. You can be returned into a relationship with a loving God who cares for you. You can be free from the worries of life and death. If there's been anything that you've taken away from this, anything that stood out to you or that you have questions about, please reach out to me with any questions. I'd be happy to talk to you. Most importantly, reach out to God.